Alright, so welcome to my video on creating slips for sweet potatoes and planting out sweet potatoes when they're ready. So I'm going to bring the camera down to where you can see what I'm talking about a little better because this is a small space. I don't do the in soil method that a lot of people do, where they put the sweet potato in flat ways. Like I have this sweet potato, which is already one I've been rooting, but they put it this way instead of this way so that they get little slips all along, and they do it directly in soil. I don't. I've never tried it. I'm thinking about trying it probably next year and see how it goes. But I want to bring you down and let you see what I'm doing. Alright, so what we have, and I apologize about all the cars and noise. It's going to be pouring down pretty bad for the next couple of days, so I have to get this video done today if I'm going to get it done at all. So I'm trying to work quickly, and I can't do anything about them. So this is how I do it. I put my sweet potato directly in water, and it'll start producing these roots. You can plant them just like a regular potato. They will still produce. They're just not going to produce as much. So, which is why most people do it by slips, is they produce more sweet potatoes if you do it by slip than if you do it by putting the potato in the ground and just letting it do what it wants to do. So, after about 3 weeks time, this is what you pretty much have. Now I use a rooting powder. It's a rooting hormone, but this is pretty much what you end up with. Now it'll root anywhere where the water is. It'll root down these nodes, which is actually really kind of cool because you can do the small little leaves if you want to. I don't. I do this, and I plant it this way. And I'll plant it as far above the roots as I can go without being too aggressive. Like, I'm not going to come all the way up here, although I technically could. I'm going to plant it probably right in around here. And they're fairly simple to do. Now, keep in mind, they are very prolific in their growth patterns, and they do vine. So if you don't keep a heavy clipping when you're doing them in pots like I do, you're gonna have them everywhere. So once they get going, and they will, they get going, and they spread pretty rapidly, which is a good thing when you have a nice big long bed. But I'm having to do this in a small 20-inch pot, which is actually not small for a pot, but it's small for what these guys prefer, which is why I'm only planting out 5 of them. I deliberately left some of the slips on here simply just because I wanted to be able to show what the slips look like when you first cut them free. You do have to cut them free and reroot them in this process. Now, I've been told that when you do it in the soil method, where you're laying it on the side and putting it directly in soil and letting it sprout up and then pulling the slips that way, that they already root, and you can skip this process. But I don't know. I've never tried that, so I'll probably end up trying it. Not this year, next year. Obviously, I've already started this year. This is what I'm used to doing. This is the first time I have grown sweet potatoes in over 10 years because my husband doesn't like sweet potatoes. So it ends up being only me that eats them. They produce too many sweet potatoes for me to choose to grow them for just me. But my son likes them, so I'll be growing them for the sheer fact that there is now 2 people in my house that like sweet potatoes rather than just me. So I'll take you over and I'll show you how we go ahead and put these in the ground, and then we'll come back and have a little chat about, I don't know, plants. It's always fun. Okay, so it is starting to rain, so I need to get these sweet potatoes planted fairly quickly. And I'm going to lay out the ones I've got. I plant even the littlest ones. If they have a root system, they get planted. It's just how I tend to do my sweet potato slips. They're pretty simple. should be strong enough root system for them to develop pretty decently. Sorry, they're building a gazebo style building in the middle of the park here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of tuck them in. This bigger one I'll probably put right here in the center. Now, sweet potatoes are vines, so it doesn't take much of these for... Come here. Sorry, the dog decided she was coming out. Okay. So, yeah, it doesn't take much of these for them to, much root system for them to actually get going. It also doesn't take many of the slips, especially in this little pot, to get going pretty well. Now, in all honesty, like this one right here where it's got some damage to its leaves, more than likely the mic picked that up. So I'll probably try to cut it out if I can. So like this one that has what looks like damage to its leaf or powdery mildew, that's my son throwing baby powder around, well, cornstarch around, because I don't actually use baby powder. But it's pretty simple. Just get them in the ground once they root. Now a lot of people do this differently than I do. This is the way I do it, is the old way of doing it, whereas I will go through that because I'm starting this video backwards. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. All right, well, because it is going to rain, a lot of people will tell you you don't really need to worry about watering them in. Yeah, you do, especially given the fact that they have forgive inside there. My son has had a little bit of fun with his diaper bag and some other stuff. They've been sitting in water and rooting that way for the last few weeks, so you definitely do want to water them in. They do need to be watered in. So while I'm getting ready to turn the water on, I wanted to give a little update and show where all the plants are and how everything's looking. And yeah, that's my camera setup. It's pretty basic, but it does the job. And obviously I think those surrendered to the void, but there is some radishes. I think they're radishes that are in there. That's the reason why I still keep that broken pot. I don't like disturbing any root vegetable once they get going. It stresses them out and they don't tend to produce as nicely. And there's the roses that are all starting to produce a lot of new growth and actually looking really, really nice, although it doesn't seem to pick it up from this camera. My little garden gnome. All the peas are actually, it looks like there's a lot of dead there. That's from where they got cold. But huge snapback on them, and they're starting to do really nicely, and the radishes inside them are also doing really nicely. And then the last thing of strawberries I haven't moved over yet, and that's because it's got a large bunch of plantlets that I am going to get rooted down for my grandmother. And then that's the raspberry, and that right there is the San Marzan tomato. I'm going to have to get the trellising done for that soon. This right here is the Tiny Tim tomatoes. These are a cherry variety of tomatoes that only get about foot tall. So they're really kind of cool. And I really appreciate how well they're doing and look forward to separating them out and seeing what size the cherry tomato is, because I'm really, really interested in those. I've been trying to grow those, but I had stuff happen. I gotta pull that weed over there. Yep, even with container gardens, you still have weeds. You don't get away from those. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the water on and be right back. And this is the pot that I had done a couple days ago, along with the sweet potatoes and planting the hibiscus, well, up potting the hibiscus. So I really had to soak it down, and it's still pooling, but that's okay. Once the water seeps back down, I'll go in and make sure everybody's pretty level. And then in a couple of hours, if it doesn't start pouring down rain, I'll check on them and see how they're standing. If they need more water, I'll go ahead and water them in. They're right next to the hibiscus, which is now opening up its flowers all nicely. They were planted 2 days ago, so they look pretty good. Anyway, we'll go ahead and have a nice little sit down. Unfortunately, there's some shaking and there's another very loud vehicle going by. There's not a lot I can do about that. I live in a very rural town, and you have teenagers that have a lot of fun when it's wet and rainy, and you know, they like to go mudding. I did as a kid too, so I can't blame them. I grew up in a rural town too. Anyway, so sweet potatoes they're a very warm, loving crop. Typically, I would wait a couple of weeks. Typically, I would wait a couple of weeks before I plant them. I would normally plant them right after Mother's Day, but I've got too many things that are going to be planted right there after Mother's Day that I decided I wanted to get them in the ground now, so that I have less to focus on. Is I have some tomatoes and some other container varieties of cucumbers that I'm wanting to try this year. Some other things that I need to get in the ground. But now that they're in the ground, I feel a little bit better, so that's nice. Now it is starting to rain, so I'm going to cut this little chat short. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. You can ask me anything, whether it's about plants or about my videos, or even I have one gentleman that asks me, I think it's a gentleman, I think so, that asks me about how I do my thumbnails and whatnot, which is fairly simple. I use this very same table I'm sitting at. I hope you enjoy it, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.